In This League presents Player Debates 2020. Fantasy baseball's biggest decisions. Player versus player. Debated by Chris Welsh and Scott Bogman. Here's today's debate. Mookie Betts in 2019 hit 29 homers with 135 runs, 80 RBIs, 16 stolen bases, and a .295 batting average. Finished top 10 in OVP at .391 and was one of 8 players with 25 homers and 15 stolen bases. Steamer's 2020 projections have him beating a majority of 2019 with 31 homers, 116 runs, 93 RBIs, 18 stolen bases, and a .296 batting average. Cody Bellinger broke out in 2019 with 47 homers, 121 runs, 115 RBIs, 15 stolen bases, and a .305 batting average. Bellinger was 4th in all of baseball with 47 homers, was one of 16 with 30 homers and 10 stolen bases, and one of 12 with 100 runs and 100 RBIs. He finished 5th in OVP, 4th in ISO, 4th in slugging, and 3rd in OPS. 2020 Steamer projections have Bellinger hitting 43 homers, 103 runs with 116 RBIs, 13 stolen bases, and a .286 batting average. Debating Cody Bellinger, here is Scott Bogman.
Of course I'm going to represent Cody Bellinger in this, even though he's a Dodger. Got to represent over Mookie Betts, of course, here. But you guys heard the stats at the top. Amazing. 121 runs, 47 homers, 115 RBI, and 15 stolen bases on top of it. And he's still only 24 years old doing this in what is consistently going to be one of the best lineups in baseball. They're even trying to add Francisco Lindor right now. And he had career highs in average runs, RBIs, stolen bases, and homers. He was 5th in hard hit percentage at 49.2%. And he was top 30 in barrel percentage. And he's had an incredible season in 2019. He's going to pick up that momentum and bring it to 2020. And I know a lot of people talk about the tale of two halves, and that looks bad for Bellinger. But it was really an amazing April at 431 and a bad August at 235. Mookie was much worse as far as swings go. 217 in June and 373 in July were his high and low, and those are right next to each other. Mookie also had drops in average by 51 points, ISO 65 points, and his slugging percentage dropped by 116 points. So it was a down year for Mookie. Not saying he's bad. He's still a great player. But in this one, it's easy for me. Even though he's a Dodger, give me the Dodger Cody Bellinger in this one. I like those homers. I like those stolen bases, and I think they're more guaranteed.
Debating Mookie Betts, here is Chris Welsh.
Well, first off, I want to thank the fine fantasy community for being here today. Thank you very much. You're loyal. You're beautiful. Just keep that in mind when you're making your votes. Hey, sir, this is my time. Just want to thank all of our loyal constituents that are out here listening to these fine debates. All right. Mr. Bellinger was 4th in homers, 6th in runs, 10th in RBIs, and 22nd in stolen bases. 12 players hit 30-plus homers with 100, but only 3 had 15 or more stolen bases. That would be Yelich, my friend Mr. Ronald Acuna, and Cody Bellinger.
You are defending Mookie Betts?
Is Mookie Betts a first-round pick? Really? Are we saying that? Just kidding. Mookie Betts, though, is consistent. He's consistent in the way that Trout is consistent, but more in a hard-to-miss type of a pick way. He's finished inside the top 30 each of the last 3 years. But as much people don't want to hear it, there was a downtick this year. The only thing he did this year from an output standpoint that surpassed the year before were his runs. He was weighted by a strong second half in which he hit .325 and hit 3 more homers in 20 less games than the first half. But all of those jokes aside about Mookie Betts and our listeners jumping all over us when he had that bad streak, consistency is the key here. Bellinger's season saw increases we couldn't have imagined. Juice ball? Not trying to bring it up in every debate, but it's something, you can obviously consider. There's 1 year behind it. Maybe a little, but he took the next step. You should be concerned, though, that the second half drop he had went from 336 to 261 in the second half. He wasn't able to pull the ball as much, and he saw more soft contact. This is Bellinger I'm talking about. But I find this interesting. Is it a smoking gun type of a thing? No, but it's something you can attach to consistency with Mookie Betts. Baseball Savant uses hard hit as 95-plus mile-per-hour balls hit. Bellinger comes in at number 15 with 205. So he hit 205 balls, 95-plus miles per hour, 45.5% of the time. But Mookie Betts, he had the fourth most instances with 235 for a 46.6%. The average hit ball rate was within 1 foot of each other as well. 207 was the average ball hit for Bellinger, 206 for Betts. Lastly, take these hard hit numbers for Betts, who isn't the masher that Bellinger is, and then take the consistency, and then you see a guy who understands how to make the most of every hit. Betts had an average launch angle of 19.1, where Bellinger was down at 17.6. Not arguing that Bellinger isn't a masher. I'm arguing that Betts is consistent and trustworthy and is able to maximize every hard hit ball with the proper launch angle. A return of stolen bases doesn't even make this close. I urge you to consider the man you know and trust, not by a fly-by-night one-night stand, but this is for you to decide.
Player Debates 2020.
All right, it's open forum. It's the town hall here. Bellinger versus Mookie Betts. We got so much crap mid-season for me bringing up the idea of Bogman.
It was late in the season.
It was late. My argument wasn't that Mookie Betts wasn't worth a first round, is that I didn't think, based on where he was, people would give him the benefit of the doubt to be a first rounder. Literally, when we said those words, Mookie Betts went off. He went absolutely buck, and he went off, and he started up this tirade of, this is ridiculous. He has to be. Well, yeah, because he started to take off. What if that moment we were at, Boggs, which I don't even remember where it was, 16 homers, average was lower. If he had not taken off at that moment and surged in the back half, this would be a much different conversation. But we're now back at the point where we look at Mookie Betts, we look at the huge run totals, we look and we hope for a little bit more on the power and stolen base numbers. And, Paul had talked to us about him being a part of this debate. So, Mookie Betts versus Bellinger in the research of this, how do you feel about Betts versus? You had to make the argument for Bellinger, and there was a time we were both easily Bellinger over Betts, but what say you?
No, I think I'm still going with Bellinger in this one. And this is such a great debate because we've seen big swings out of both these guys. Of course, Bellinger came on with the huge rookie year where he hit almost 40 homers in 132 games. And then he had the backtrack year last year where he only hit 260 and he dropped in homers down to 25. But he readjusted this year and was good to go. And I feel like I'm believing more in this version of Cody Bellinger. Mookie Betts has had that swing too, but it was in 16 and 17 when he went from hitting 318 to 264. Went from 31 homers down to 24 and, just lower overall. Mainly the average was the big thing here, but he's had such wild swings. He's hit as low as 264 and as high as 346 so far in his career. So it's tougher to pinpoint what you're getting out of Mookie.
I'll tell you this, Boggs. I am not as high as the collective group on Betts is. Like, when Paul said, Mookie could be considered in that top three, I'm just not with that. I'm not with that. Yeah. It's not to be disparaging of Mookie Betts. It is astonishing looking at the power numbers that Bellinger sits in now. And for him to be multi-position eligible, first and outfield, to have the double-digit stolen bases, the huge power numbers, as you put, he's an OBP stud, over 400. He was in the top 5 in ISO, top 5 in slugging, top 3 in OPS. Those are huge numbers. I do worry about swings with him. And even though Mookie Betts has represented swings, though, I will tell you, as I dug deep and looked at, a lot of, and I know it can get sometimes mind-numbing, and I know there's a lot of shows that live on this stuff, and that's okay. We don't love to go crazy and talk to you about ex-WOBA and barrels and all this stuff all the time, but when you are making some of these, you have a full season under you and you're making some of these decisions, it is kind of eye-opening to see that Mookie Betts is not the biggest guy, but he has been consistent. And to show that he does hit the ball hard, he has a higher launch angle. He's up there with Bellinger. He's a higher launch angle, and he hits the same distance average ball as Bellinger. Now, he might not.
Well, I'll say that the launch angle, though, isn't, because there's guys with great launch angle that don't hit the ball for crap.
Yeah, so but I'm saying he has the same average distance ball hit as Bellinger. That's I totally agree. Launch angle doesn't mean S if it's not traveling. Now, Bellinger has a higher home run distance than Mookie Betts does. But what I'm talking about is you're talking about consistent hit numbers from Mookie Betts. If the stolen bases go down in a way of Trout, it is worrisome. And I don't love the swings, but the underlining things are always in favor of Mookie Betts. They just are. They're in favor of Mookie Betts. But I think people are treating Betts versus Bellinger with much less respect than it should be given, because the power numbers with stolen bases and multi-position eligibility actually make Cody Bellinger immensely valuable. I am going to lean Mookie Betts, even though not only did I debate for him, I am going to lean him, especially after doing some of the bigger work. And as you heard at the top, one of 9 players with 100 runs, top 10 in the OBP, top 25 in the average, and he has been in the top 30 value for 3 straight years. I love those consistency numbers. There's not enough of a discrepancy between the two, so I am going to go Betts, but this one is immensely close in my eyes.
The ceiling's higher on Betts. I think you have to give that up, and that's fine. I just don't know if I believe that he's hitting this ceiling again that he hit in 2018 when he hit 346 with 30 homers and 30 stolen bases. He had 16 last year. Steamers got him at 18 swipes this year, and that's going to be in the same range as Cody Bellinger. He's going to probably steal about 15 again, somewhere between 10 and 15. I don't think Bellinger's getting up to 20, and Betts could easily do that. I just don't know if he's going to.
And I don't
know that he's a 346 hitter. I mean, I think he's closer to a 290 hitter. His career is 301. So, but that is ballooned by that 346 that he had in 2018.
I think what you're alluding to is you and I, like Cody Bellinger is right with Mookie Betts where he isn't there. I think if you don't, you have one up and one trending down. Bellinger trended down in the second half. Mookie Betts trended up in a really large way. So if you believe the trends and you're concerned about a one season massive output versus consistency, I think those are things enough to say I'm going to go Mookie Betts because I might get a few more stolen bases. He is consistent. I know exactly what I'm getting. There's more volatility with Bellinger. That's how you treat it. And in the top 5, where I made a case for Acuna, and there's a little bit more risk, but the upside is so immense, Mookie Betts has, I think, the same type of upside with consistency that Bellinger doesn't quite provide, and that's why Mookie Betts takes the edge. Just the edge.
For me, I think I'm gonna go with Bellinger, but it's I'm McCain in this one. I keep flip flopping.
It is a flippy floppy one, and that's why we want to get the results from everybody else. So look out for the straw poll on the 2020 debate that is Mookie Betts versus Cody Bellinger. Let's see where it goes, and it'll be fun to review that. Player debate ITL 2020 Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger. You decide.
Player Debates 2020, brought to you by In This League. Check us out at patreon.com/ITL Army today. Find your Player Debate 2020 poll results and special debates only at patreon.com/ITL Army.